Once again, I have returned live from the wastelands of the internet. It is I, the Nomad, here to bring you news for the week. Okay, nice to see you in the chat already, TM. I can see you there, Mr. Barkley. Welcome. All right, and I realize I'm starting a little bit early, but I got a lot of stories to get to. Number one, and well, I've also got a little personal commentary to make about a few things. Like I'm shy about doing that. Um, First of all, I recently had a business trip to Atlanta. I have returned home. The trip uh, was on Southwest Airlines, which it's been a while since I've taken Southwest. It was okay. All right. There's certain things that I wish that they wouldn't do on Southwest. All right. Like trying to make the place more enjoyable by having people sing in the aisles. I'm trying to sleep. Okay, I just want you to understand. When I get on a plane, I just want the plane ride to be over. Right? I want to sleep and leave me alone. All right, that's what happens. What happened to Sherardi and that gang? Sherardi's. I haven't talked to Sherardi in about a week, so it's been a week. Otherwise, I haven't heard anything. Like I said, I've been in Atlanta, and like I said, just Southwest. I look, guys. I know you're trying to liven things up on these flights. Just don't. Okay? Just don't. Now, let's talk about rental cars. I went to the rental car agency. Oh, that was a joy. All right. And even though I'm in the priority lane group for frequent flyers and so forth and frequent business travelers, this time the line, because instead of just giving me my car, I have to always go see the office. All right. Normally it's fairly quick. I was there for over an hour waiting in line. I was tempted to say, you know what, I should have just waited in line inside of the terminal because what the hell's the difference if it's going to take you this long to figure out how to get a car out? It was absolutely ridiculous. So they put me in a Volkswagen Tiguan. Now, I've never. It was not Hertz. It was Avis. Okay. I do have a frequent flyer thing with Hertz. I probably should have chose that one. So, did they claim me stolen? No. They put me in a Tiguan. I've never ridden a Tiguan, and the Tiguan, it was okay. All right. It's not. It's not my cup of tea. There's certain little things that I want to see in a car, I want to feel in a car, and the car just didn't feel necessarily right for me. All right, and how I get comfortable and how I drive, adjust the steering wheel and all that other crap, which is fine. I mean, that didn't put me off. What put me off was when I went to return the rental car. I was going to fill it up with gas, and I did. All right. But I literally had to consult the flipping manual to figure out how to open up the little freaking door to the gas to the gas cap. You literally got to go through a freaking process of hitting several buttons while you're pushing on the door to get the damn thing to open up so you can fill it full of gas. What kind of engineering nightmare? First of all, somebody had to engineer that. Hey, Volkswagen, whoever worked on creating that process, fire them. Okay? Fire them. I shouldn't have to freaking access a freaking owner's manual to figure out how to press the little code on the remote to open up the freaking door to the freaking gas cap. And no, there is not a little thing that says gas cap thing. No, there's not a special one. No, you had to double click in a specific sequence, double click the open the door thing to open the freaking gas cap area. Who the hell designs that kind of bullshit? If your guy is wasting time to try and design that process, fire them. And fire the guy who agreed to say, yeah, let's put that in. Fire them. That's way beyond over engineered, folks. That's just frankly stupid. I'm just letting you know. All right, enough of that bitch. Let's get on to the news. Oh, good God. All right. At least 6 killed in Russian attacks in the Ukraine. At least 6 people were killed and more than 16 others injured in Russia's overnight attacks on the Ukraine on Saturday, said Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. In the city of Poltava in central Ukraine, a missile strike caused a section of an apartment building to collapse, killing at least 3 people and injuring 10 others. The State Service for Emergencies reported that 21 people have been rescued from the rubble as of Saturday morning while search and rescue continued. Additionally, a drone strike killed 1 person in the eastern city of Kharkiv, while 2 others died in raids in southeastern Sumy region. The strikes also caused damage to facilities in the northern Kiev region, the western Chmelnytsky region, all right, and southern. I'm not even going to try and do this. Zaporozhye and Odessa. Okay, let's take a look at the map for a moment, all right, because this war is still going on and people are dying. Okay, as you can see from this map, okay, there is a lot of fighting still along this edge. All right, there is very little going on here. So much for the great Ukrainian buildup, all right, that they were going to take back the Crimea. I guess that's not going to be happening anytime soon. All right? Now, what you're seeing here, and I wanted to blow this up, this is very worrisome if you are the Ukrainians, because you have a salient which can be easily sealed off and then put to right, all right, from a military perspective. If you have troops in this area, the Ukrainians, get them out because they're about to be trapped. I don't know why they're holding on to this region. It looks like what they've been doing is funneling forces along this river line. Well, they're going to lose it. All right. In the meantime, up north, it looks like this city, all right, is slowly being enveloped. All right, which is another area of concern if I was the Ukrainians. Now, if we go back up, and yeah, we'll go out a little bit so we can get up here. This is the area where they invaded Kursk, all right, into Russia. The Kursk salient. All right. As you can see, this pocket is slowly being pushed down. All right. There are reports that the North Koreans are no longer being utilized. All right. It was probably a good thing because trying to coordinate, all right, the very disparate forces and so forth into seeing what happens was probably never a good idea to begin with. I don't know how much favor the Russians got with the North Koreans and vice versa. Okay, but the salient is slowly being reduced. Okay, week by week, day by day, you're having these incursions happening all along this front here. They're throwing stuff back into Kharkiv. They also hit the Kiev area, all right, with a drone, right, which is, to me is worrisome because they're once again expanding their front lines here. Right. This appears to be where they're headed. Their attempts are at next, and like I said, the salient down here is where they're going with it. People are still fighting. Trump has yet to fully engage with these people. Now, I know a lot of people are like, well, how come he hasn't stopped the fighting there going on? I can tell you one of the reasons is because he's too busy fighting with other people, including the rest of the rest of our supposed allies. All right, into what's been happening. So it is what it is. Meanwhile, in the other big area, Hamas stages Gaza beach handover as Israeli hostages are freed. Ranks of Hamas fighters formed up on Gaza's beachfront on Saturday for the handover of an Israeli-American hostage in a show of force against the dramatic backdrop of breaking waves. In Gaza City, a stage had been erected at a harbor for the handover of Keith Siegel. All right, green Hamas and Palestinian flags flapping in a strong breeze near the Fisherman's Wharf. Earlier, Israeli Yarden Bibas and Franco-Israeli Ofer Calderon were handed over in a swift, organized ceremony in the war-battered city of Khan Yunis in the south. Siegel, 65, wore a black tracksuit, dark gray hat as he was escorted quickly to the stage by fighters. He waved to onlookers and cameras as hostages being freed had been told to do so by their captors before being handed over to the Red Cross. The occupational therapist seized from his home, along with his wife, Avia, who was released during the truce in 2023 in November, appeared to have some difficulty moving as he mounted the stage. All right, look, I've said this before. The only way you're going to get peace is if they murder and totally wipe out Hamas. And when I say they, I mean the Palestinians. The Palestinians have to get rid of Hamas. Now you take a look at the weapon that this guy is holding here. Look at this weapon. All right. This is a modern weapon, obviously, where the magazine feed, all right, is behind the trigger well. These people are well funded. Not for food or anything else. Personally, the Israelis have to understand if they truly want peace, and the world has to understand this too. If you want peace with these people, you can't go into a war half-assed. Well, no, man, they did. They went in full force. No, they didn't. No, they didn't. They didn't went in there with kid gloves again. All right. Instead of just trying to wipe them off the face of the earth. The problem isn't Hamas in and of itself. It's the Palestinians, their own acceptance that these murdering butchers are how their society should live in advance. Why do they get cool guns, but I can't? Harley seems fair. All right, let's go around the world a little bit more. Angela Merkel. All right, criticizes German frontrunner Merz over migration vote with the far right support. Former German Chancellor Angela Merkel on Thursday issued a rare public criticism for her successor as the country's center-right leader, the front-runner in Germany's election next month, for putting to Parliament proposals for tough new migration rules that only passed with the help of the far-right party. Germany's center-left governing parties have cast doubt on whether conservative leader Friedrich Merz can be trusted not to bring the far-right Alternative for Germany, or AFD, into the government. After Wednesday's events, he insists he didn't that he didn't and wouldn't work with it. Right? He didn't break with political consensus, often called the firewall, to shun the party, but Chancellor Olaf Scholz said Merz made an inexcusable mistake. How dare he get support from the AFD? Okay, all right. Let me get a little coffee here. You have people, specifically the Britisher, absolutely terrified of what the AFD is. Okay? To them, far right is a threat. Well, okay, what is far right? No, man, don't you know? Don't you know what far right is? No, I don't, because you guys have freaking called everything far right. Anybody who disagrees with some leftist claptrap is a far right agitator. If you disagree that kids should be transitioning, as young as 5 years old, you're a far right lunatic to these people. That's the reality. So you have people going, "What's the far right?" Like me. Well, there's a history. There's a history there, no man. You're ignoring the history. No, I'm not. We all understand what the history is. We all understand what the history is in Germany. You're worried about the mustachio man. A sudden appearance of a mustachio man. When a mustachio man can appear, okay, is when the people see grievance, severe grievance. Germany at this point in time has no far right loon, all right, in the sense of they're going to go back there, put boots on, and go marching again. But Germany has to start changing now. They're not going to be given a choice. And I say that not because I wish anybody or anything on these people. These people, for the longest time, especially these leftists, right, have lived high on the hog, right, in their social utopia, paid for by the United States for the most part. That's coming to an end. Okay? It's coming to an end. They keep talking about irregular migration. For example, Merz, determined to show his center right union's bloc commitment to cutting irregular migration after a deadly knife attack last week by a rejected asylum seeker, put a non binding motion to parliament calling for Germany to turn back many more migrants at its borders, although it might need the AFD's backing to pass. The measures squeaked through thanks to the far right party support. Polls show, in other words, these people are already in the quote unquote government. See, but what they're worried about is that these people are going to go get into the bureaucracy. Because that's who's running these countries. The AFD is not going to do it. It would be no worse supporting the AFD, Right? If the AFD took over Germany, would be no worse than if the Greens took over Germany. It really wouldn't. In fact, the Greens, in many ways, would be much worse. Why? Because the AFD is determined to sit up there and defend itself. And Germany will begin a rearmament, something it desperately needs to do. If it's going to live up to its NATO commitments, it has to start rearming. Hear me, Europeans. Don't wave NATO around, and we'll be talking about that again in a little bit here. Don't act like you're going to wave NATO around to the United States anymore, because we understand something already. NATO doesn't exist without the United States. We are NATO, not you. The United States is NATO. Don't give me this claptrap about our allies. You guys are backstabbing weasels. And it's about time that bill comes due. We should be closing every freaking base throughout Europe with the exception of what we have in Poland right now. Because of the lack of a commitment to our quote-unquote NATO allies. And it's coming. Trump's busy doing other things right now, but it's only a matter of time before this comes to the fore. How many people saw this story? New wave of bomb threats targets Hungarian schools. A new wave of bomb threats was reported on Thursday evening, with 44 schools receiving threatening emails, the National Police confirmed on Friday. Among the affected institutions, 13 are in Budapest, while 31 are in rural areas. Police responded to all locations, implemented necessary security measures. No explosives or devices capable of detonation have been found in the buildings inspected so far, the police said in a statement. I love how they put that. No explosives or devices capable of detonation. What an odd way to turn a phrase. It just could be just linguistics, right? National Bureau of Investigation of the Rapid Response Police is continuing its inquiry into the threats. Budapest Mayor Georgi Karasconi, okay, assuming that's how you pronounce it. I'm not trying to butcher it. Stated that the city's institutions stand ready to assist law enforcement. Budapest's companies and institutions are prepared to provide all necessary support to the police, he wrote on Facebook, or Meta. The latest bomb threats follow similar incident last week when it reported 292 schools in Budapest and surrounding areas were evacuated due to reported threats. Poland is buying every single weapon of war they can. I don't blame them. Poland's in a bad situation. It's in a bad spot. Because it has no allies except for the United States, and we are completely across the ocean. I can hear the Brits now. We're allies with them. We're allies with them. Yeah, okay. Put in 500 freaking Challenger tanks into Poland, and then I'll agree with you. Right? Open up a military base. Open up a freaking armor brigade. Right? Stick it in freaking Poland, and tell me that that I'll buy. Right? Just an armored brigade, a fully functioning armor brigade. Put it in Poland. Then come tell me that you're actually supporting it. Right? That's how they were buying mechanized artillery and ammunition from Korea some years ago. Yeah, they're buying whatever they can because they know what's happening. My question in Hungary is these bomb threats. What are they threatening to bomb schools for? Is it just generic, we're going to blow up a school? What are you trying to get out of this? Could this be a bunch of pranksters? Possibly. All right, let's get to the United States. We'll start with this. Medical plane crashes in northeast Philadelphia. All 6 on board, including a child, were killed. All 6 people aboard a medical plane that went down in northeast Philadelphia on Friday, including a child and her mother, were killed in a fiery crash. The Lear 55 crashed near the Roosevelt Mall around 6:10 p.m. after departing from northeast Philadelphia Airport with a final destination in Mexico, according to authorities. Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum Pardo confirmed the deaths in social media posts, saying all 6 people were Mexican nationals. So this was a Mexican flight. Multiple injuries to people on the ground have also been reported, resulting from an explosion left a large field of debris, damaged to buildings, burned out cars. The exact number of injured has not been available. Temple University Hospital said Saturday morning that 6 patients were treated and released from the Giannis campus. All right, one person is hospitalized at the main campus and is listed in fair condition. Many people on the ground in parking lots on the streets, in cars, and homes in the area were injured. The number of injured has yet to be released, but the information shared at this time reports the number of people were transported to Temple University Hospital, right, in the Northeast. Right now, we're just asking for prayers. Okay. First problem that I have with this is what's what's weird, really odd, is if you've seen the video of the plane before the crash, of the grainy videos and everything, the plane comes in at such an angle. All right, it almost looks like a missile strike. Okay, and the plane is if it wasn't a missile strike, the plane looks like it's on fire when it came down. Okay, so what caused that? What caused the plane to look like it's on fire? All right, it could be anything at this point. Now we have it obviously coincidental with the DC crash, which we'll talk more about that in a moment, right? But what's going on here? It'll be very interesting to see what happened to that plane because there are so many possibilities. But like I said, it's hard to see that go in the way it did because the way that came in looked like a missile strike coming in. That's how fast that was moving down. Army refuses to identify female Blackhawk pilot killed in the DC collision. The the Army is refusing to name the female pilot killed aboard the military helicopter that collided with the passenger jet at the Ronald Reagan Washington National Airport on Wednesday. In an announcement Friday, the Army, which disclosed the name of the other 2 soldiers in the chopper who died, said the woman's family requested her identity be withheld from the public. At the request of the family, the name of the 3rd soldier will not be released at this time, the Army Public Affairs wrote on their website. The unidentified soldier was an experienced pilot with more than 500 hours of flying experience, the Telegraph reported, citing Jonathan Kozoil, right, the Chief of Staff of the Army's Aviation Directorate. The Army on Friday formally identified Staff Sergeant Ryan Austin O'Hare, 28, and Chief Warrant Officer 2 Andrew Lloyd Eves, 39, as the 2 service members who were on the Blackhawk helicopter when it went down in a fiery crash into the Potomac River. Okay, this is obviously Staff Sergeant Ryan when he was a PFC, so I don't know how recent a picture that was. At a press conference Thursday, the Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth described the crew of the UH-60 Blackhawk as fairly experienced. Okay. One of the things that everyone has been talking about was supposedly how high the helicopter was. Okay. We don't know exactly what happened, but I can tell you from my time in the military flying, being flown around by, I was not a pilot, being flown around in helicopters. I got flown around in a lot of helicopters. And helicopters do map of the earth at times, all right, which is, uh, it's exciting. Okay, I can tell you right now, when they're doing map of the earth, and especially in Korea, and you're just hovering above the ground, right? You don't really know how high you are from the ground. Okay, you don't know if you're 200 feet or 400 feet. It's exciting. It's a thrill. Okay, now at night, seeing the ground is going to be very difficult. Having night vision goggles on is going to make it that much more challenging. Okay, if they had nogs on, they haven't said that they were wearing night vision goggles. They haven't said anything about what they were doing, at all, aside from quote unquote this was a training mission. Okay, I can tell you from some of the reports where they sit up there and showed the path of the helicopter that the pilot was flying the river. If you see the track, you can see that the person is trying to stay on the river. This is not a surprise because that's how pilots do things. Is unlike in the air where they look at the compass and they say this is the direction we're going, we got the speed, blah blah blah, this is where we're going to be at. Helicopters normally fly by looking at the ground to identify where they are and getting features from the ground. Okay, I wrote it in a UH-1. I used to ride those things all the time when I was in Korea. It is something else when you see them do a bank turn and you got the door open and you're just looking straight at the ground going, whee! This is a lot of fun. I mean, I had a good time. Right? Now, Black Hawk, for those who don't know, they see the shows in Vietnam and they think, okay, well, that's what those things are like. It is cold, all right? It is cold. You are right. Um, Blackhawks are massively larger, okay, than a Huey. Okay, I, I'm saying a lot bigger. Okay, it's amazing how much bigger a Blackhawk is than a Huey. Yes, you have to wear your coat if you fly in them, right? But like I said, like I was saying though, they're looking at the ground generally. Everyone says, well, they were too high. They were too high. Uh, they were almost 400 feet in the air. They should have been around 200 feet. Like I said, looking at the ground, especially at night, you're not going to notice the difference between 200 and 400 feet. You're not. This looks to me, low to be a type of accident that could have easily been avoided. All right. A long time ago, by establishing corridors for the helicopters to fly. There was no reason the helicopter, which was trying to go south, okay, couldn't have sit up there and started flying south immediately. Immediately. Instead of basically circumnavigating the airport. And I'm not exaggerating that. If you take a look at the flight path that this thing was taking, basically, so you wanted to go south, there was no reason it couldn't immediately started going south. It didn't need to try and fly the river. Now, maybe it was on some weird mission doing that. I don't know. All right. But to me, it was pretty obvious that the flight path that it took was not one that it needed to take necessarily. And if they've been used to taking those kind of flight paths, I've got to question why the hell were you establishing helicopter flight paths that way? That was kind of silly, in my opinion. Senior FBI leaders ordered to retire or resign or be fired by Monday. At least 6 senior FBI leaders have been ordered to retire, resign, or be fired by Monday, according to sources briefed on the matter, extending a purge that began last week. Speaking of that purge, FBI agents involved in Trump cases escorted out of the offices Friday night's purge. I guess they said, no, you can't fire us. You can't tell us to resign. Oh, yeah? FBI agents who investigated President Donald Trump and who were fired by the Bureau on Friday were escorted out of the office, the Washington field office, according to reports. The so-called purge of rank-and-file agents and the heads of 20 offices was announced earlier in the day. Among those who were axed was David Sundberg, who former FBI Director Christopher Wray appointed to head the D.C. field office in 2022. Also on the chopping block were agents reportedly involved in investigating Trump's classified document case as well as his Jan 6 interference case. The Hill reported Friday evening that the agents in Washington were escorted out of the building. Acting Attorney General James McHenry told the agents their role in investigating Trump was the reason for their dismissal. Given your significant role in prosecuting the president, I do not believe that the leadership of the department can trust you to assist in implementing the president's agenda faithfully. Ding, 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 ding. Whether they were doing it for malicious reasons or not now, at this point in time, you cannot say, all right, that these people aren't a threat. And there are firings all over the place. You have got to fumigate this. You know who else was gotten rid of? All the January 6th prosecutors. All 20 of them. As they should have been. They need to go. They've been part of the problem for a long time. These people, here, DC U.S. Attorney fires January 6th prosecutors, launching new probes. Interim DC U.S. Attorney, all right, Edward Martin Jr. on Friday dismissed about 30 federal prosecutors who have worked on January 6, 2021 Capitol riots cases over the past 4 years, undertaking a house cleaning of top prosecutors' office in Washington. Don't start there. The next place is New York, and then go through Phoenix, go through frickin' LA, San Francisco. Get rid of all these scum. The prosecutors were on probationary status after being converted to full-time, all right, from short-term positions after Election Day under circumstances the Trump administration is investigating, according to documents from Martin and acting Deputy Attorney General Emo Boev, all right, that were emailed around 5 p.m. and viewed by the Washington Post. Nobody gives a shit who it was viewed by. All right. In the first 11 days in the office, Martin 54 has moved quickly to align the office with President Trump's political views and drawn significant criticism in the process. Since being appointed on January 20th, Martin has ordered top supervisors in the office to investigate their colleagues' handling of the Capitol riot prosecutions in the wake of Trump's mass pardons, all right, and threatened subordinates who disclose or criticize his actions. As soon as someone criticizes his action, they should immediately be gone. If they cannot follow the president, their boss, they need to go. These people need to go. And he appeared, meaning uh, this guy Martin, right? He appears to have set his sights on scrutinizing the nation's top elected Democrats, sending what he called a letter of inquiry to Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer, all right, about his quickly walked back statement in the March 2020 rally that two of Trump's recently appointed Supreme Court justices, all right, would pay the price for their vote against abortion rights. Meanwhile, North America braces, excuse me, braces for new Trump tariffs as Saturday deadline nears. Dun, dun, dun. Companies and consumers and farmers across North America braced on Friday for a Donald Trump's to impose a 25% tariff on Mexican and Canadian imports within hours, moves that could disrupt nearly 1.6 trillion in annual trade. Trump has set a Saturday deadline to impose the punitive duties over his demands that Canada and Mexico take stronger action to halt the flow of illegal immigrants and the deadly opioid fentanyl precursor chemicals into the United States. Trump said on Thursday he was still considering an additional 10% tariff on Chinese imports to punish Beijing for their part. Industry groups were furious, furious, all right, seeking any scrap of information on how Trump plans to implement the tariffs. You walk in there and say, okay, hey, TC, let me know if you want to come in and I'll start a Discord. Anybody who thinks that this is going to be a significant issue, okay, it's going to be significant for Canada and it's going to be very significant for Mexico. Mexico is playing in a very dangerous game, but the problem Mexico has is you can sell the Mexican government anything you want. They're not in charge. Mexico's a narco state. The cartels control Mexico. The female president of Mexico can say whatever the hell she wants, but she can't do anything. She has no control over any of this. At some point, and I know people aren't going to like this, at some point the U.S. military is going to have to take action against the cartels. The U.S. military is going to take U.S. military action to wipe these cartels out. That's reality. She's in with them. Well, I mean, to a degree, she has to be, otherwise, she'd be killed. That's just the way it is. More of what Trump's doing. Trump allied FCC chairman opens investigations into NPR and PBS. Gee, what a surprise. Brendan Carr, the Trump allied chairman of the FCC, sent a letter this week to the heads of the NPR and PBS announcing an investigation into the public's outlet for airing sponsorships, a long-time practice. Carr, in his Wednesday letter, I'm concerned that NPR and PBS broadcasts could be violating federal law by airing commercials. Ding, 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 ding. All right. In particular, it's possible that NPR and PBS member stations are broadcasting underwriting announcements that cross the line into prohibited commercial advertisements. National Public Radio is not supposed to have commercials. Carr's investigation comes amid President Donald Trump's ongoing criticism of NPR and PBS. No more funding for NPR, a total scam, editors said. They have no Republicans, all right? and is only used to damage Trump. They are a liberal disinformation machine, not $1. Elon Musk has also taken aim at NPR in the past and called for it to be defunded. The right has long slammed any government funding for NPR and PBS, despite those numbers dropping substantially in recent years. NPR's David Folkenfleck explained the issue behind Carr's letter, which is unique to public media funding. Underwriting has been an increasingly important part of public broadcasting finances in recent years as federal and state governments have pulled back from such funding. On average, NPR receives about 1% of its funding directly from the federal government each year, according to publicly available materials. PBS receives 16%, according to a network spokesman. If that's the case, then you don't need public funding, do you? You don't need public funding, right? If it's such a small percentage, you don't need public funding, especially for your supposed news broadcasts, which are nothing more than DNC talking points. Meanwhile, in New York, a school aide who dragged an autistic teen by the genitals at the New York City funded center amidst abuse now faces deportation. An immigrant school aide caught on tape grabbing and dragging an autistic Queens student by his testicles has pled guilty to a felony and faces possible deportation. Garnet Collins, 51, tortured the teen at the Anderson Center for Autism in upstate Plattsburgh, about 10 miles north of Poughkeepsie, where the New York City and state taxpayers paid for his tuition, board, and room. It was the worst case of abuse of a disabled youth at the New York institution in years. The Anderson Center collects millions of dollars in state and city funds to educate students with severe autism. My son is going to have PSTD for years, the teen's outraged father told the Post. He is suffering. He remembers. He calls out, Garnet, no, no, no. The whistleblower who recorded the abuse testified that similar assaults occurred frequently at the residential center, but that supervisors turned a blind eye, said the dad. He has called on authorities to investigate possible criminal negligence and state lawmakers to mandate surveillance cameras in public areas such as facilities. In a Dutchess County criminal court, Collins first told the judge, I hold him by the waist, Your Honor. The judge stopped him and said, my understanding is that in an attempt to control this person with this condition, you grabbed him by the genitals and you hurt him. And you hurt him. Is that fair? Yes, Your Honor, he admitted. He pled guilty to endangering the welfare of an incompetent person. In a video recorded by a fellow aide, Collins is seen as gripping the youth's crotch and yelling, Go to your room! While the youth screams in pain, crying, I want to call mommy. Why is this guy in the country? No, he is not a citizen but a permanent resident. From where? Collins, jailed after the hearing, faces 1 to 3 years behind bars. The sentence is too lenient. It's part of a pattern of law enforcement not taking seriously abuse and neglect of disabled people. Okay. Deport him. Deport him back to wherever he was from. Remove his green card. remove any rights he has under the system, and get rid of him. You don't need to go to court. Okay, this is all administrative action. Goodbye. People who don't understand this, the military is very distinct about what is considered legal and what is considered administrative. And the administrative powers are significant. There's no reason for this person to be here. There's no reason for him to be here. Now, my problem extends further. Obviously, this has been going on, this kind of activity has been going on for quite a while. The supervisors had to know this. The supervisors of this school, the ones who were running the school, had to have been aware of this. They should be fired immediately as well and investigated, all right, and never allowed to near children ever again. Denmark in crisis mode after horrendous phone call from Trump demanding to buy Greenland. Denmark is in a crisis after Donald Trump made a direct play for Greenland in a horrendous phone call with the country's prime minister. The U.S. president spoke to Mette Frederiksen, the Danish premier, for 45 minutes last week and made clear he wanted to place Greenland under American control. The autonomous Arctic territory that has been owned by Denmark since 1814. But Mr. Trump thinks that it would be a valuable asset in the United States' strategic competition between Russia and China, or excuse me, against Russia and China. Ferguson told him in their call last week that despite his big interest, Greenland was not for sale. Really? You know what's for sale from the United States perspective? You know what's really for sale from the U.S. perspective? It's Denmark itself. Nomad, what are you talking about? What are you saying, Nomad? I'm saying we could just as easily sit there and go look over and go, hey, Russia, if you invade Denmark, we won't do anything. Hope you guys are ready to defend yourselves. Just putting it out there. Hope you guys are ready to sit up there and find the world what it's like when the United States says, you know what? Our security umbrella doesn't need you. We've protected you long enough. NATO was put in place so that these countries could get themselves back on their feet to defend against the Soviet Union. The Soviet Union no longer exists. You people can live on your own. You don't need the United States anymore, and we need to start withdrawing all of our support. In a blow, Paramount Global is in discussion with Donald Trump to settle a lawsuit over Kamala Harris's 60 Minutes interview. Updated with additional details, the FCC comment Paramount Global has been in detailed discussions with Donald Trump's team about settling his lawsuit against CBS over the way a 60 Minutes interview with Kamala Harris was edited last year. We can confirm. Any settlement would be a highly conciliatory gesture to Trump. He was not even part of the 60 Minutes piece, but he sued the network for $10 billion under Texas's Deceptive Trade Practices Act, which generally aimed at false advertising. But Paramount Global is seeking the green light for its sale within Sundance, something that requires regulatory approval of the Trump administration. Brendan Carr, who Trump appointed to lead the SEC, has indicated that the 60 Minutes interview would be part of its review of the transaction. CBS said today that it would comply with an SEC notice of inquiry to provide an unedited transcript and camera feeds of the interview. The reason for this is that this was a propaganda piece edited to be a 60 Minutes commercial for Kamala Harris. And it was selectively edited to make Kamala Harris look better than she was. And she still came off like an idiot. She still came off bad. But when people saw the original, they got a hold of the original transcript, people were like, oh my God. So Trump is basically suing these people left and right because guess what? They haven't been news organizations. They've been acting as proxies of the DNC. And it's had an effect. Unburden what has been. He wants to keep serving his country. Donald Trump says he can't. Nicholas Talbot, a lifelong dream of going into the military, having been raised to be a person who is called to serve others, told Newsweek, all right, he said counterterrorism was his bread and butter, noting that the work has always piqued his interest. But after graduating high school and looking at his options, Talbot was blocked from serving because he identified as transgender. In 2011, he started transitioning socially, and in 2012, he took his first medical steps toward transition. I just kind of accepted that this was something that was not an option on the table for me, Talbot said. This week, Talbot, along with 5 other active duty service members, 2 who would like to join the military, filed a lawsuit against Trump, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, and secretaries of the different branches of the military, kicking off what will be likely a long battle that winds its way to the Supreme Court. Again, this guy is not doing this to serve anybody. Okay? He's not doing this to serve anybody but himself. And he wants you, as a taxpayer, to pay for it. And what's more is, whether anybody likes to admit this or not, people who are in transitioning are deranged. They are not right in the head. They have psychological problems, all right, at a much higher rates than anybody else because it starts with the obvious one. They're delusional about who they are. They are so mentally unable to accept who they are. They want to be someone else. Why would you want someone like that in the military? Someone like that can't accept reality. And if you keep feeding that delusion, they don't get better. They don't become stable. Oh, you're going to love this next one. From the New York Times, the Democrat Party is in a ditch. There is a way out. The Democrats are a party controlled by elites, liberals, and special interest groups. They are out of touch with America's middle class. They are personified by a president who let inflation get the better of him and world events spin out of his control. What are you talking about? The guy was he was deranged, and you guys cheered it on. You guys hid it from us. You and the New York Times, Doug Sosnick, you all knew the man was incapable of being president of the United States, and you did everything you could to hide it from the American people. As a result, the Democrats lost the White House as well as control of the Senate. I'm talking about the 1980 election and its aftermath. But if politics back then has a familiar ring to it, it has lessons for Democrats. Today, they are in dire need of a fresh vision and leadership. The election of the new party chair on Saturday is just the beginning of the rejuvenation process. No, it's not. No, it's not. And I say that because where is the person in that process of the person that they selected? What's their stance on LGBTQ rights, on the LGBTQ agenda? It's the same as it was before. Out of touch with the middle America. We're going to continue to push LGBTQ. The Democrat Party is now in worse shape than at any time since the 1980s. No, it's not. It's in worse shape than at any time, all right, since the 1860s, when they declared civil war. Joe Biden's policy mistakes, he made none. According to you guys and Dougie boy, were you talking about all the mistakes Biden made? No. You're gonna talk about Biden's mistakes now? You said there were no mistakes. The guy was a great president. He was doing everything right. Doug, you finally admitting that making inflation worse and making the border less secure? Oh, really? You cheered it on. The lack of trust in Democrats who circled the wagons around him in 2024 have done damage that the party. No, okay, the ones who circled the wagons. Okay, the ones who circled the wagons were you guys in the press. The problem is that they can't put themselves back together again because their priorities are social justice, abortion rights, LGBTQ rights. But we're a pro labor agenda. What pro labor agenda? All right, they do not understand. Just like you guys in the press, you don't understand why Trump won over the other Republicans. Bill Clinton's candidacy and victory in 1992 offers a valuable lesson for Democrats on the type of candidate who most likely succeeds succeeds taking on Republicans. Clinton was not part of the ruling class in what party in Washington. His upbringing and his time as governor in a southern state gave him a clear understanding of the country. Most important, he has a clear narrative about what he would do and the change as president, where he wanted to lead the country, and he drove it into the ground. People forget that Bill Clinton in 1992 won not because people were voting for Bill Clinton. They forgot this guy obviously never even watched that whole thing. 1992, where he beat George Bush Senior. Okay, He didn't win because, oh, he was a great candidate. Oh, his Southern strategy. He won because a certain individual took close to 20% of the vote. A certain individual, George Bush, had alienated himself, all right, by reneging and agreeing with the Democrats in Congress and voted a massive tax increase. And as a result, they were playing Read My Lips, no new taxes. Where do you think that came from? So you ended up with a Ross Perot upsurgence where people were looking for a third party. And Ross Perot had a very good chance of taking states if he'd have stayed in. All right. It wouldn't have necessarily have changed the outcome of the election, but it could have actually thrown it into an electoral college vote for the first time in, close to 100 years. Over 100 years, actually. With the electoral college, people would start to understand how their government worked. But because Ross Perot went in, went out, went in again, right? He lost a massive amount of support that he was building. This could have been a three-way race into the electoral college. If Ross Perot had never even done anything, then most likely, what's his name, Billy Boy, Billy Boy Clinton wouldn't have done anything, wouldn't have survived. This is the kind of stupidity you get from the New York Times. Meanwhile, the tuberculosis outbreak in Kansas is alarming, but it's not the biggest in the U.S. history, the CDC says. Fire President Trump. If somebody could get a hold of President Trump or anything else, fire the entire CDC staff. Fire the entire administrative staff of the CDC. All of them. They're a bunch. It's being run by a bunch of clowns who are more interested in politics than they are in actually stopping diseases. Okay, a year-long outbreak of tuberculosis. This is my opinion. Okay, now the CDC has said a lot of different things, but the staff of the CDC, the guys who are running it, from what I can tell, is they're incompetent. And if you don't believe me, all I have to do is point out one thing. When the CDC's response to COVID, all right, came out, their initial responses had a lot of mistakes, right? Now, people have said, yeah, we made a lot of mistakes. They've admitted to it, okay? But not one of those people were outed or fired. They're still there. Same people who made mistakes. Just pointing that out. Now, as far as the vaccines and everything goes, all that is part of, has been approved by the various organizations and so forth. I'm not going to say anything on that, right? Because that's up to them. They're the ones saying that these things are effective and work. But the testing kits, do you remember the testing kits? The initial testing kits? Where the efficacy rate was so low, and then they found out that a bunch of them had been contaminated. Not one person was fired for that. Something to remember. TB is caused by bacteria that lives in people's lungs and spreads through the air when they talk, cough, or sing. It's very infectious, but it only spreads when a person has symptoms. Once it infects a person, TB can take two forms. In active TB, the person has long-standing cough and sometimes bloody phlegm, night sweats, fever, weight loss, swollen glands. In latent TB, the bacteria hibernates in a person's lungs or elsewhere in the body and does not cause symptoms and does not spread to others. Roughly a quarter of the global population is estimated to have TB, but only about 5% to 10% of those develop symptoms. How big is the tuberculosis outbreak in Kansas? As of January 24, 67 people are being treated with active TB, most of them in the Wyandotte County, right? Bronot said another 79 have latent TB. The state's provisional 2024 count shows 79 active TB cases and 213 cases in two counties where the outbreak is happening. Wyandotte and Johnson. Not all are linked to the outbreak, and Borough did not respond to requests for clarification. The situation is improving, though. We are trending in the right direction right now, said Ashley Ghost, Deputy Secretary of the Kansas Department of Health and Environment, told the Senate Committee on Public Health and Welfare on January 21st. Okay, tuberculosis is a much bigger problem outside of the United States, according to this article. All right, and I believe that. But I will also say this: if that's the case, perhaps we should be taking a better idea of monitoring the people coming across the southern border. Now, I know I shouldn't have mentioned some of these things because they are hyper. The YouTube algorithm will probably ding me again for saying something bad. Attempt to give me a guideline strike. All right. The World Health Organization and everything else has put out all sorts of status on COVID. All right. So has the national response in the FDA. Okay. These are supposedly experts on infectious diseases. Just put it out there. The authorities say one thing. Accused rapist found not guilty because he's of his sexsomnia, engaging in sexual behaviors while sleeping. An Australian man has been found not guilty of rape after blaming it on his sexsomnia. Timothy Malcolm Rowland, 40, was found not guilty of rape after a 7-day trial after jurors agreed that his condition, which makes people engage in sexual behavior while sleeping, meant he could not be held accountable for his actions while he was unconscious. We are not about to punish people for acts that they have no lawful control over, said Judge Pickering, told the Sydney Downing Center Court. The judge told jurors that there are no laws about sexomania, and it's not for you to create the law. Rowland and the woman had gone for drinks on August of 2022 before going back to his Sydney apartment while they took a bath together. The woman fell asleep in Rowland's bed but woke up around 6 a.m. to him having sex with her. She shoved him off her and left the apartment. The jury determined there was no way to confirm beyond a reasonable doubt that Rowland committed rape consciously. Okay, how, how are you supposed to? What kind of ridiculous ruling is this? First of all, the woman got into bed, showered with the man, but there was no sex involved. You kidding me? Did the jury sleep on it before they have sex? Can you show me a book that engages in sex while you're asleep? Is a thing? You walk around sleeping with people that they were drinking, they had drunken sex. Let's be honest. They were drinking. She came back to his apartment. She got into bed with him. Why did you even bring this case to court? Hate to have a sleepover at his place. Are you flipping kidding me? Oh my goodness. Meanwhile, adult star mystery. OnlyFans star horror as porn actress Anna Pauley plunges from a balcony of a hotel room where she was filming a threesome. The 27-year-old's body was found in a courtyard at an apart hotel in Rio de Janeiro. Porn star Ana Beatriz Pereira Alves, known online as Anna Pauley, died in the hotel in Nova Ignacio in Rio de Janeiro on January 23rd. Grim footage of the scene showed police officers standing over the body believed to be Anna's in a blood-covered sheet. The OnlyFans star, 27, was found in the courtyard of the complex, reported to be the four-star Mont Blanc Apart Hotel. She fell to her death as she was filming sex X-rated scenes with two men for an online adult content site. The two men who were with her in the hotel reportedly gave conflicting accounts of what happened, but were released by the police after being questioned. Okay, nothing against anybody. I'm sure that there's. Look, I love this. An autopsy has been ordered to determine the exact cause of death. 27-story flight to the ground. All right. If it was being filmed, I think you have plenty of footage, right? I'm not sure that these two men who were with her, if they gave conflicting accounts of what happened, all right, you've got the footage, right? Her boyfriend, Pedro Henrique, said all information about the case has already been in the hands of the police and they are investigating. If someone is to blame, they will pay and the culprit will be found. The grief-stricken partner paid tribute to his late girlfriend and announced details of her funeral on a social media post. Um, dude, does the word cuck mean anything to anybody? Global warming 4 times faster than 1980s and likely to accelerate in the coming decades. Ocean warming has more than quadrupled in recent decades and is likely to accelerate even faster if humanity fails to address climate change, scientists find. The Earth's oceans are getting warmer at an accelerated rate, researchers find, indicating that climate change is speeding up too. Scientists found that ocean warming has more than quadrupled in the past 40 years and is likely to accelerate even faster in the future. Researchers published their findings in a new study published Tuesday in the Journal of Environmental Research Letters. Meanwhile, in the same magazine, a large patch of the Atlantic Ocean near the equator has been cooling at record speeds, and scientists can't figure out why. All right, this was from August of last year. For a few months this summer, a large strip of the Atlantic Ocean along the equator cooled at a record speed, although the cold patch is now warming its way back to normal. Oh. Does the words, you guys don't know what the hell you're looking at, mean anything to you? That you have, whatever your models, your models, excuse me, whatever your models are showing you, that your models need work, right? They need to be fixed. This alarmist attitude is what's causing people to no longer trust anything. And the media, which has done a lot of shilling for these idiots, okay, these alarmists, and that's who I'm talking about. I'm talking about the climate alarmists, right? And I'm not one of the people who says that global warming isn't a real thing. I'm not one of these people saying that climate change is not a real thing. I do have a problem with people saying how serious it'll be because we don't know. I think a lot of the alarmist predictions by these people have not come true. Right? That's obvious. I saw another story there that said we can predict when the Arctic will be free of ice. Okay, that was predicted that by the year 2000, according to Al Gore. He predicted that there would not be any. The Arctic would be completely free of ice, you know, in the summer. That was back in 1980. Remember that? They've been sounding the same thing, and like I said, I'm not saying the climate isn't changing. It's always been changing, and I'm not saying that it's not due to mankind. It may very well be due to mankind. Man could be having a very significant effect on the climate. My problem is I don't think it's going to be. There's no reason to believe it's going to be as bad as people think it is. There was a time period, folks, when Greenland was completely forested, and it wasn't that long ago. So the effects on humanity, all right, are not going to be as dire as people predict. Are there ways and things we should be doing? Does that mean we shouldn't be trying to take care of the environment? No, no, no. I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying stop the nonsense, especially when you come back and go, oh, we need to do something about global warming, but we're not going to sit there and tell the biggest polluters of the world, China and India, that they have to change any of their practices. Only the West has to do that. Only the West has to change their dynamics. Only America has to change how it does things. The biggest polluters in the world, no, they can continue to pollute. That tells me that this whole process that you're talking about isn't about global warming or saving the planet. Your priority is wealth redistribution because you're a freaking communist. If that's one of your stances, it's because you're a communist. You're not doing anything to protect the planet, folks. Greenpeace, all these people, they're not trying to protect the planet. It's a how much money can wealth redistribute back into their own pockets. You want to stop this thing? If the UN is all concerned about all this stuff, how much money? Let me ask you a question. How much money has gone into the IPCC or whatever the hell they call it? How much money has gone into it? How many billions of dollars has gone into it? So that being the case, Why haven't they, I don't know, purchased all of the frickin' Amazon rainforest to quote unquote protect it and protect nature? Why aren't they actually putting their money where their mouth is? You could be buying up whole sections of rainforest to protect it and then going out there and actually sending all these little climate protesters that want to climb freaking buildings or want to throw orange paint, and you put them in a freaking uniform, give them a gun and say, protect this area, don't let anybody in. Oh, by the way, the bad guys, they may want to go in. Good luck to you. Show us your freaking commitment, you assholes. Do something for the planet. We gotta stop here. They tell you understand, so man. Yeah, I understand. I understand. I understand. All you are is a freaking mouthy little bitch. That's all you are. All the money given to all these different organizations. Why aren't you taking all that money that you're doing that and buying sections of rainforest and then going out there, fly your happy asses to Brazil or wherever you freaking whatever piece of rainforest you've done, and go living out there, being one with nature and protecting it? Wait, rainforest is available on Amazon? Just putting it out there, folks. That's from the terrifying moment when a man gets out a sniper rifle, all right, on the Elizabeth Line tube platform, wearing full camo gear, as experts say it's a surefire way to get yourself shot. Can't disagree with that statement, except for the fact it's in Britain. Who's going to shoot him? This is the terrifying moment. A man appears to get out a sniper rifle on the Elizabeth Line tube platform while wearing full camo gear. The horrifying footage: he builds a huge gun and aims its barrel into the carriages of the Elizabeth Line train at the Whitechapel station. Commuters can be seen getting out of his way and glancing him nervous looks as they queue on the East London platform while he holds what appears to be a weapon at the ready in full combat fatigues. British Transport Police later confirmed that the man, in his 20s, had dressed up with an imitation gun and was on his way to a film and comic convention. But experts have hit out and warned that idiotic behavior is a surefire way to get yourself shot. If this was America and you aimed a gun at people on a subway, you probably would be dealt with. Let's put it that way. He's cosplaying as Florida Man. Giant solar farm in the Mojave Desert could close just a decade after it opened. The world's largest solar power plant on the California-Nevada border. Awfully specific. A California utility wants to end its agreement to buy power from the giant solar farm in the Mojave Desert because it found cheaper alternative clean energy sources, a move that will sound the death knell to what was once the world's largest solar plant, according to reports. PG&E said it agrees with its owners, including NRG Energy Inc., to end its contracts with the Ivanpah Solar on the California Nevada border to save customers money. The contracts were set to run through 2039. If approved by regulators, the end of the deal would lead to the closure of 2 of the plant's 3 units in 2026 because California doesn't need all the power it can get. Just put it out there, folks. The Southern California Edison, which buys the remaining power from the plant, is also in talks with the U.S. Energy Department to buy out its Ivanpah contract, the AP reported. PG&E said Ivanpah Solar, which formally opened in 2014, was built when developers were searching to find efficient and affordable technologies to reduce the need for greenhouse gas emitting fossil fuels. But since then, other types of renewable energy have been developed that cost less to produce. Ivanpah uses a process known as concentrating solar power. The plant uses about 350,000 mirrors, each the size of a garage door, to reflect sunlight to the top of a tower where the sun's power heats water to make steam to power turbines that generate electricity. But Ivanpah was unable to compete with photovoltaic solar technology that uses devices like rooftop solar panels, right, to generate electricity. Solar photovoltaic panels and battery energy storage were once unaffordable at a large scale. Today, after years of sustained investment and improvement, those technologies provide thousands of megawatt hours of clean energy for PG&E customers. PG&E Senior Director Commercial Procurement Don Howerton said in a statement, "Money well spent." To me, it's like, okay, instead of having mirrors, I mean, this is a pretty big area here. Take a look at this. This is a pretty significant amount of landmass, and each one of those things is the size of a garage door. Looks to me as if you could turn those all into solar photovoltaic cells, right? How big a solar farm would this be? If it's that much cheaper, you could replace all these mirrors with photovoltaic cells, right? Am I missing something here? Just, just asking. Just asking. He thought his dog was gone forever. 7 years later, the phone rang. Woof woof. Damien disappeared on May of 2017. For more than 7.5 years, his dad marked milestones he had hoped that they would spend. I don't think the dog's dad. It's not a human being, folks. It's a dog. I'm just putting this out there. They hoped to spend it together. Paul Gilbert, I'm not Gilboy. I'm not trying to butcher your name. I can't pronounce it. Paul, all right, finished his move from Massachusetts to Arizona, started a new life near Phoenix, switched careers to photography, met his future husband, and then married him. All without Damien. But the photo of him stayed up, although looking at them made Paul, all right, sad. Because it's my family. All right. Then came the day in day 2008-14, a text from a mysterious number saying that he has been found. I was like, shut the front door. After nearly 8 years, someone had nearly run over, then found his miniature Doberman Pinscher. Paul got Damien back in 2012. All right, and he was 6 months old. So the dog is over 10 years old now. The dog is on its deathbed. Okay. I'm just letting you know. You're getting your dog back to bury it. Okay? You're getting your dog back to bury your dog. If it was born in 2012, it's 2025. The dog is 13 years old. It's got maybe 2 years left at most. Just putting it out there, dude. Somebody found your dog, kept that dog around for a long time. They enjoyed having the dog with them. And now it's like, oh my God, the dog's going to die soon. I'm going to let it go. NOAA study ranks groundhogs for weather predicting accuracy. So my tax dollars are going to study the accuracy of various groundhogs that people sit up there and predicting weather. This is what you're telling me? The U.S. National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration released a study analyzing the annual prognostications of weather predicting groundhogs and found the most famous, the Punxsutawney Phil, didn't even crack the top 10. NOAA released the study ahead of Groundhog Day, which falls on Sunday, to analyze which groundhogs, along with one prairie dog salute and a tortoise, were more accurate in predicting weather, whether spring would come early or late. I think NOAA needs its budget cut. Okay? Not because they don't do anything useful. They're very useful in predicting and helping people, warn people of hurricanes and other things. But if they have so much cash and so much spare time to sit up there and go, you know what, we need to spend the resources of our group to determine just how accurate groundhogs are. I think that we need to re-examine this. Okay? I really freaking do. On how much funding and tax dollars you need to go and deal with this shit. Eaton Fire evacuee, all right, finds bear in his crawl space upon returning home. What a surprise! A California man returned to his Altadena home after the Eaton fire and discovered a 525-pound bear had taken up residence in his crawl space. The homeowner, along with his neighbors in Altadena, have been evacuated due to the Eaton fire, the California Department of Fish and Wildlife said on a social media. Once they returned, the utility company informed the residents that power couldn't be restored, all right, as there was a bear under the home where the company needed to work. The homeowner, Sammy Arbid, said the bear is well known to residents as a resident of the Eaton Canyon. Neighbors have vicariously or variously named him Barry and Victor. I think during the fire he pretty much stayed in there. I think he was scared. Gee, you think? You think the bear got the hell out of Dodge and went someplace that wasn't going to burn to the ground and hope for the best? Gee, I wonder why the bear did that. And yes, I agree, the house belongs to the bear now. CDFW officials set a trap for the bear and made sure it was well baited. So they went to Stater Brothers and bought some rotisserie chicken, sardines, and tomato sauce, apples, and peanut butter, all kinds of stuff. And they made a feast for him. The bear was successfully lured out of the hiding place and trapped for relocation. The biologist actually said it was the biggest bear he had ever seen in person. It was the claws, the bear claws. The bear was fitted with a GPS collar and released in the Angeles National Forest. I feel sorry for the bear because you're still in California. You're just as likely to get burned out of your next neighborhood. Just putting it out there. The final story of the day. Woman rescued after trying to save dog from frozen lake. Police and animal rescue officers in Missouri came to the rescue of a woman who became stranded in a kayak after saving a dog that fell through the ice on the frozen lake. Holt Summit Police Department said on a social media that an officer and an animal control officer responded to a report of a dog that fell through the ice of a frozen lake near Dogwood Drive and Summer Tree Lane. Upon arrival, officers discovered a brave Good Samaritan had taken a kayak onto the frozen lake in an attempt to save the dog. While the dog had been successfully rescued, yay! The female in the kayak became stuck on the ice and unable to return to shore. Officers used a water rescue throw bag to reach the woman and tow her kayak back to the shore, but apparently left her in the water. Because what a way to write a story. Thankfully, both the dog and the female were unharmed. Ah, yeah. It's good that the women went out there to go look at the things. All right. I mean, I do think it's kind of cool. All right. Um, but lady, getting yourself stuck. You rescued the dog. Okay, good. All right. I don't know how you got out there in the first place. If you were able to get in the kayak and rescue the dog, I'm not sure why you couldn't get you know stay in the kayak and get yourself out. I mean, kind of makes you wonder about things. All right, everybody, that's all I've got for the day. Hope that you all have a good day. Thanks for coming out and listening. Enjoy the day. Bye bye.